sometimes you just gotta go for a drive. I'm sure everybody has times in their life where you gotta hunker down and really focus on your priorities, whether that's your job or school or whatever it is. Sometimes you just really have to focus in on those things. I find if I don't have time to do some hobbies or just kick back at the end of a long day, everything just seems a little more bleak. So always looking for something to just pull me out of that. And lately, I've been doing a lot of these, just more driving in some of the simulators. I did a video a couple months ago driving the Pesio Mini Cooper around the Wicklow Mountain region. And just been doing a ton more of that in Assetto Corsa. And it's this new type of thing, at least for me, but I think a lot of folks as well, where driving cars around circuits or roads is quite a lot of fun. And so today I'm here at the Feldberg Ring by Fat Alfie, and I've taken a look at one of Fat Alfie's other circuits before, Fontany, but whereas Fontany was a fictitious imagining of a French Nordschleife, the Feldberg Ring here replicates a real track from the 1920s and 30s up through the 1950s actually, mostly motorcycle racing, but a beautiful, beautiful area to drive, and so just a great place to take out a car and relax for a little while. So coming around the bottom of the hill here on cobblestones, actually, this is a little town, I believe, called Oberreifenberg, but it's a little town you go through there, right through the middle of it, over some cobblestones. Must have been really hard to ride a motorcycle over that. This track actually reminds me a lot of the Irish road racing tracks, like Duntrod or the Isle of Man, obviously, but based in Germany. I would say for its time with these wooden barriers on each side of the circuit, seems like actually quite a safe track. Only raced cars a little bit from what I can tell. They had a few sports car races around here, but nothing major in the car department. It was all about the motorcycles here. Choice here might look like a Porsche 911. That's at least what I thought it was at first, but this is actually a Porsche 912. I believe the body style itself is from a 911, but has a different engine in it, and it was actually the entry-level car for Porsche back in the late 1960s. I believe it cost, when new, about $4,500, which, if you can imagine buying a brand new Porsche for $4,500, and with inflation, that's a little bit more, but it's still a lot lower price than you would pay today. The car itself was raced quite a bit, as was the 911 from the time, and ultimately Porsche phased out the 912 for the 914, I believe in 1970. So this car was only produced for a few years, 1965 through 1969. The version here we're looking at is from 1968. It's a car actually done by a user, Stereo. You can find it over at Race Department. And I've looked at one of Stereo's other cars before, so we'll work our way down the hill here. Easy to slide out in that corner, but I've done one of Stereo's other cars. The Formula Ford that I took a look at was also by Stereo. Really nice cars that Stereo makes, and this is no exception. This car itself is a pretty interesting one. It's actually a reproduction or a replication of a real specific car, so it's not just generic Porsche 912. It's a modern take on a 912. I believe there's a specific 912 that's had an engine fitted from a 356, and I don't really know all the differences, but from what I'm reading about it, the engine's a little more powerful than the 912s would have had in them. And it's actually a car that's raced these days. The actual paint scheme that the car uses is present in the pack as well. And I'm just running one of the generic ones today, but a very, very nicely done car and a perfect complement to the Feldberg Ring here. Through the Sandplatten hairpin. So this is pretty much the furthest east of the circuit as far as I can tell. Now we'll head back towards the start-finish area and along very fast section. This is the fastest section of the circuit itself. Fifth gear, but up here we'll lift off. It's all about just driving, pushing a little bit, but it's fun to just relax and do some laps around the track and not just push. I think sim racing itself can be quite tiring if all you're doing is going out there and competing and trying to beat people online or set the fastest lap. The enjoyment of driving these days with modern force feedback wheels, and we've got a nice H-pattern shifter here. It's just great to drive the cars around, something that maybe wasn't quite as great 10, 15 years ago with the quality of sims, but these days just driving the cars is very nice. And I know a lot more people know that, but almost telling myself it's become really popular to have these just kind of driving events and people cruising around the different tracks. Feldberg Ring here isn't quite a long circuit. It's completing another lap there. It's about 11 kilometers, around 7.25 miles or so, but just long enough that you can get lost a little bit. It takes a little while to learn. So we'll come back through the village here. Very steep hill. Again, I can't really imagine motorcycles going down here, but there's actually some pictures on the download page for this track that Fat Alfie has motorcycle racers racing down the hill here. Fat Alfie's done a great job at this track. I believe it was his second Assetto Corsa track released. I've also taken a look at Fontenay, which is the French open road circuit, but unlike Fontenay, this is based, of course, like I said, on a real circuit, and the level of detail in this is absolutely astonishing. I believe the circuit itself, or Fat Alfie says it's based in the last year of operation, so it would have been 1954, and the surroundings fit that. The advertisements that you can see back there are all period correct, and the sheer number of trees that have been placed around the circuit is astonishing. Fat Alfie claims there are no walls of trees used on this track, and you'll see a technique used on sims for forever. They've only just been moving away from the edges of the track, but walls, straight walls of just a flat panel of tree, a picture of trees. It's always a feature of sim racing tracks. And over the years, it's been moving a little further away. We'll come by a nice cottage here, Rotes Kreuz there. But Fat Alfie says that he's used no tree walls at all on this circuit, and so every tree that you can see is a 3D tree, maybe some higher detail than others, but it's a singular tree that's been placed everywhere. It's just one of those things. Lots of bushes and things as well. I love some of the little pebbles and things on the corners of the edges of the track as well, just to break up the monotony of a straight road. And the detail of the road as well, with all the little bumps and nuances, makes driving a nice car around here quite enjoyable. It really feels like you're wheeling a car around some roads in Germany. Got that classic Porsche understeer. The car handles really well. I haven't been pushing it obviously very much in this video, but been driving it quite a bit recently, and it's easy to get into bad situations. Come over the top of this hill here. When we head to that downhill section, very easy to understeer if you're not going slow enough, and if you brake too late or try to slam on the brakes and crank the wheel at the same time, you'll get that oversteer that Porsches can get in braking. So you really got to be ahead of the car. But if you're just doing some fun laps, this will come down kind of a corkscrew almost through there. But if you're just doing some fun laps, maybe pushing the car here and there, so enjoyable to drive. You can really feel the tires on this one, which is always a good feature in a sim car. So we'll come around to start another lap, and I'll push it a little bit this lap. It certainly won't be a record by any stretch. I'm flat out in 5th gear, pretty much maxed out on the RPM there. We'll come down to the first set of corners. Just get it over the hill. The feeling as the car gets light on the crest is absolutely awesome. Got the sun in my eyes now. It's quite late in the afternoon or evening here at the Feldberg Ring. Come past all these houses and stone wall and cobblestone streets. They certainly don't make tracks like they used to. A little bit wide on the apex there, but like many circuits, the Feldberg Ring did not reopen after 1955 with the Le Mans disaster. There was, I think, a petition or a mandate, probably a better word for it, to reconstruct the corner we just went through and not go through the town there. And I believe work might have actually started on that, but they ended up not finishing, and the circuit never reopened for racing. And I believe these days most of these roads still exist as public roads, but the circuit has not been raced on since 1954. Already, there's quite a dramatic elevation change at the Feldberg Ring, heading up the hill now down the backside, but you saw we came over that massive downhill section through the village. But the road width is very consistent, and it's quite a nice road compared to other, you can imagine other tracks and things at the time. Same width the whole way. The paving is quite nice, so they're pretty serious about the racing around this type of circuit. Head past the lodge again. Just try to clip the apexes. We've got a little bit of dirt on the edges of the track there, so don't want to slide on it. The understeer there as I'll run out to the edge of the track. Now we'll go through a little bit faster of a section up to 4th gear. We're almost at that point though where I feel like this is almost recreating that Need for Speed type vibe, at least for me, where it was all about getting an exotic car and then picking an exotic locale and driving it around. And you can really do that in Assetto Corsa. You can pretty much drive any car you want. Some are nicer than others in quality. I certainly would recommend picking a nice one for the best experience. Well, as we'll come over the hill there, once again, just slide in the car, all 4 tires. Nicer quality cars are always great to drive, but really you could dream up any car you want. It probably exists, and there's a whole nice selection of these awesome places to drive it around. I know this one's been getting a lot of use for me, but the Wicklow Mountains that I showed off before, you got the Targa Florio, you got the LA Canyons, and it goes on and on. There's tons and tons of roads out there. I was just trying out, and I don't actually know the name well enough to say it here, but the Tokyo Street Track, and I think a lot of people will know what I'm talking about. about. It's a huge highway section in Tokyo, and I've just been trying that out a little bit as well. And yeah, absolutely incredible stuff a lot of these folks are doing in Assetto Corsa, and makes for a really enjoyable driving experience that's not exactly racing. That's kind of my point with it, is you don't have to really, I don't know, get all worked up and try so hard to just set a fast lap time. You just kind of drive around, blow the hairpin there, just drive around and enjoy the scenery and the car and move around and just reflect on things. And it, at least for me, is somewhat therapeutic, and I believe other people think the same. On the fastest part of the circuit now, and this is all flat out through Greitenbach here. Can't imagine doing this on a road bike over the blind crests and everything. You wouldn't have much of an opportunity. You'd really have to lay the bike down to get through here fast. We'll come up to the final few corners though, and I think it's getting late enough that we'll pull it in the pit lane and end the fun ride. But hope you enjoyed watching. This is a really nice car. I definitely recommend checking it out. The racing around this circuit is fantastic as well, not just the driving, as all of Fat Alfie's circuits are. But appreciate everybody watching. I'll see you all again next time.